Greetings, generals! In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Greek city-states and their tactics around 250 BC. More specifically, we'll be looking at Epirus and Athens, the units and formations they used in real life, and how we can implement those tactics in Rome to total war. Now, before we begin, this is kind of a part 2. In the previous video, we looked at Macedon and Sparta, but you don't really need to watch them in chronological order. So stay, have some grapes and wine, and let's dive into the Hellenistic period. First, let's examine Epirus under the famous King Pyrrhus, one of the most celebrated generals of the Hellenistic period. Pyrrhus's army was Hellenistic Macedonian in style, combining heavy infantry, pikemen, and cavalry. All kinds of cavalry, some consider to be unnatural. So what did a typical army formation of Epirus look like? In the center, much like the Macedonians, there is a strong sarissa phalanx. This formation holds the line and anchors the army, but it also removes a lot of flexibility. On the flanks, you will find heavy infantry and cavalry. Elite squadrons on both sides protect the phalanx and strike at enemy flanks or defend your own. In front of the army are the skirmishers. These consist of archers, slingers, and javelin men who harass and weaken the enemy before the main engagement begins. So at first glance, it looks a lot like a Macedonian army. But Epirus had one big advantage, and with big, I mean very big. They're war elephants. Massive shock units that were ideal for breaking enemy morale and creating openings in the battle. Or underwear. Openings in underwear. You'll crap yourself when you see a beast like that. Wait a minute. If you're a bit of a historical nerd like me, you might be wondering, where did these elephants come from? Elephants don't exactly live in Greece. Well, King Pyrrhus obtained his war elephants from Ptolemy II, the pharaoh of Egypt, who loaned them to him for his campaign in Italy around 280 BC. Pyrrhus's forces were a great example of combined arms warfare. Now, Epirus is known for having a difficult start in Rome to total war, but in my opinion, they have one of the most interesting armies among the Greek factions. So let's see how we can use this historical formation against a disciplined Spartan army. Here we have the army of Epirus. As you can see, I have a pike phalanx in the center, protected by 4 units of hoplites, 2 on each flank, with the elephants positioned just behind them. I placed my archers in front of the army, while the peltasts are positioned behind the pike formation. Why? Well, this was a common Greek tactic. While enemy soldiers were engaged with the phalanx, javelins could be thrown from behind the line into the fighting. This is the first time I'm trying this out, so we'll see how well it works. The Spartan formation is built entirely around hoplites. It's very similar to the army I used against Macedon in the first video. Now the skirmish fight begins. I'm mainly focusing on the Spartan archers, since they have a longer range than their peltasts. The Spartans push my skirmish line very aggressively, so I'm forced to pull back. However, the Spartans make a mistake. Their push puts a lot of pressure on my pikemen, and even my phalanx starts taking heavy losses from their peltasts and archers. So I deploy my flanking forces, the hoplites, elephants, and cavalry. The plan is simple. I'm going to box the Spartans in like a Happy Meal at McDonald's. Meanwhile, the peltasts behind my pikes are doing excellent work.
Their javelins are breaking many of the weaker hoplite units, and soon the entire Spartan army begins to collapse.
Now let's move on to Athens. Athens may be best known for its navy, but around 250 BC, it still fielded strong land armies. So what did an Athenian army formation look like? In the center you have a choice, either a solid wall of hoplites or a line of sarissa infantry forming a deep formation to hold the enemy in place. The Athenians have many hoplite options, so I would personally recommend going with hoplites instead of pikemen. You can also mix both if you want some variety. In front of the army you'll find skirmishers such as peltasts, slingers, and archers who harass the enemy before the lines clash. On the flanks, there are small units of cavalry and light infantry to protect the sides of the formation. Behind the main lines sits a small reserve force, a few hoplite or pike units that can reinforce weak points or exploit gaps in the enemy line. In real life, Athens's land armies were smaller than those of Macedon or Epirus, but they still adopted the Hellenistic combined arms approach for flexibility. So let's see just how strong those hoplites really are.
Alright, here I have a hoplite-focused army of Athens, and I'm facing a Spartan hoplite-focused army. Wait a minute. So it's hoplites against hoplites. I guess we should call this the Battle of the Hoplites. Time for a more dramatic intro.
Alright, let's face the facts. Where do I actually have the advantage here? Infantry? No. The Spartans have better hoplites. Ranged? Also no. The Spartan army has more ranged units. Cavalry? Oh yes, cavalry. I brought 3 units of Hippias lancers with me. Elite shock cavalry, perfect for charging in and out of combat. I use these lancers to outflank the enemy and deal with their cavalry first. Once that's settled, I wait for an opening. But not for too long, because if I wait too long, my front line will break. As I mentioned, the Spartans definitely have the upper hand in infantry here. On the other flank, I have Phalanx swordsmen and Thracian mercenary warriors, who will also come in handy for flanking attacks. But when I start maneuvering these units, I notice something. The heroes of Sparta. People who know Rome know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those who don't, remember how I said earlier that you probably crap your pants if you saw a war elephant charging at you? Well, these guys make the elephants crap. After some brutal line holding, there it is. A small opening in the Spartan line. I send my lancers charging straight through the gap, smashing into the rear of their formation. With my general leading the charge and giving morale boosts left and right, Battle of the Hoplites is finally decided. With cavalry. But hey, a win is a win. Well, that's it for today. Either you head out onto the battlefield now, or, like a true Greek, you sit down on a rock somewhere and start philosophizing about a triangle with a 90-degree angle. See you in the next video.